Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Time Sports. It is my pleasure to have here with me Brian Wallace, the head football coach over at Vandebilt Catholic. And Vanderbilt's got some really good things going on related to football this summer. And when I say this summer, it's summertime, folks. Brian, you're about out of school at this point,
Almost, yeah.
And you are doing something that I think is really spectacular. First of all, hello, how are you coming out of, say, the Springwood football? You ready to kind of take a little break to get into these camps, or is it like, let's go, let's get it done?
The batteries will be recharged for about 2-3 days, but I'm ready to get really into the camps, into summer. You know, we had all the multi-sport kids, so just getting the whole team back together to build that chemistry and, you know, just our DNA for the 20-25 years. Excited about that.
I think it's so important to have the younger kids involved, and this is a way to have the younger kids involved, to kind of show those techniques, those fundamentals that it takes to play football. You have a couple of camps coming up. First, let's talk about the summer camps. The summer camp, and when I say the summer camp, it's basically Vanderbilt's summer camp. You've had this before.
Correct.
This is not anything new, but it is right around the corner, right?
Yes, it'll be May 28th, 29th, and 30th, 1st through 7th grade, and it's open to anybody in those grades. It doesn't matter what school they're in. It's just to be able to give the kids the opportunity to learn football, get coached by our coaching staff, our players, and kind of just have an avenue of them to have some fun for 3 days and build them up.
What times of the day that you're having this? When does it go from till what time?
8
So
a.m.
that's 3 days in a row, right?
Yes, 3 days in a row, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Obviously, you got to get out the heat with all that. But we work offensive skills, defensive skills. We'll do a little 7-on-7 with them, but just teaching the fundamentals of the game, you know, regardless really by position, because sometimes when they're that young, they don't know a position. So just trying to have them get a good experience with the game of football to hopefully they continue to do that later on in life.
Your, so to speak, counselors, that's your staff who's going to be there to do it?
Correct. The football staff, and then we'll have, you know, last year we had about 25 of the players who are around that, you know, so they get to interact with players and guys that we trust, and they do a good job with them.
You know, you brought up a good point, because we don't know the body build of kids at that point. You know, you don't know exactly how they're going to fill out, what they're going to be, and so it gives them opportunity to see what everything's like in football, right?
Correct. Yeah, you know, everybody, you know, it's funny, everybody wants to be a quarterback, or they want to be a receiver. So we teach all the different, just basic fundamentals, you know, blocking, tackling, catching the football, throwing the football, how to hold the football, just all those things that, you know, hopefully they can take a, you know, one coaching point here or there to help them develop, maybe for their flag football team or back at their school or wherever they're playing it. And, you know, maybe, you know, as they continue to grow, they'll remember.
Before we get out of the segment, we're obviously going to talk to you a little bit more about how to get in contact with you guys for this, but just real quick, how do you get in contact?
It's on our website under the camp section. We shared it on Facebook, and we're even taking walk-ups the day of that Wednesday. So if they just bring a registration form with cash or check, and we'll get them going.
Very good. Again, that's the 28th. Everything with that starts on the 28th, folks. Then you have one that's a little bit more specified, a little bit more detailed related to, which I think is smart, because we live in a day and age where everybody wants to do 7-on-7, and I keep thinking, well, that's great if you're playing flag football, but that's not football. You know, that's not the totality of football.
Absolutely correct.
So you're doing something with offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I think that's absolutely great. Talk about the genesis of that.
So as you know, last year, me and our O-line coach Chandler Arsenault talked about it a good bit because we were both, you know, I worked at Nichols, Chandler played at Nichols, and they have that big O-line, D-line camp over there, which I think is the premier O-line, D-line camp in the country. And I worked that for 7 years, and Coach Chandler was a player, went through it, and then as a coach was doing it. And I said, you know, there's really a void of for lineman development in, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because they only, you know, they take 9 through 12. And I said, you know, we have to develop those guys because there's a lot of 7-on-7 and flag football. But to me, the development of a lineman is just as critical, if not even more so, because the game to me is won in the trenches. So we had talked about putting that together so that we can, and we're going to build it structurally kind of the same as what Nichols has in terms of the station work and all that, and the same fundamentals in teaching, but it'll be very specified to offensive and defensive linemen. And so everyone on our staff who will be coaching it has ran that camp before. Myself, Coach Arsenault, our defensive line coach who was coaching at Nichols for 2 years, and our running backs coach who coached the camp over there, Coach Dewey. So all of us are very familiar with all that.
Let's get that graphic up so we can let everybody know about the O-line, D-line camp over at Vandebilt Catholic in the trenches. I like that.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. But I also like that kids are sort of getting the techniques down a little bit earlier.
Yes.
You know, it gets the footwork and everything that goes along with it. And I also like that you compare it to the lineman camp, the big O-line, D-line camp that they have there at Nichols. But you can't be a fifth grader and do that, right?
No, and it's kind of tough to be over there as a fifth grader. So we're trying to hopefully, a lot of kids from the area go to that camp. So almost, prepare them to be able to go to that. And the thing with fifth through eighth grade, some of them play both sides of the line. So we're going to give them that experience at our camp where they'll work offensive line technique and defensive line technique, because sometimes the bigger kids, they play both sides of the line.
That's right.
If they get a taste of both, obviously you can't get into in-depth, but they'll be prepared. And our biggest goal is to just have them be better players coming out of the camp and learn something.
Yep, makes sense. Especially, fifth, sixth, seventh graders, you don't know exactly where you're going to specialize and things like that. So,
correct.
Very good. Again, we hope that goes well. If you want to find out more information, go to Facebook. Vandebilt Sports, or is it Vandebilt Football?
Vandebilt Athletics, Vandebilt Catholic Athletics.
I did. Actually, that's where I saw it too. So
yes,
that
sir.
works out really well. I hope that goes well for you guys. Thanks for giving us some time.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Very good. We'll be back with more Bayou Time Sports right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda and Barker Kia.